Alright, so this is the second video on ecology. We're going to finish up by going over succession. Remember that we talked about Mount St. Helens volcanic eruption in 1980, and we talked about how the ecosystem actually came back. Okay, not only the plants and everything that's around there, but also the living organisms or predators and consumers. Okay, so this happened in 1980. We watched a few animations, and you can click on the links and go to the animation so you can get more specifics on what happened to Mount St. Helens. But remember that after any disturbance to the ecosystem, okay, there's always steps or a series of stages that need to happen in order for this ecosystem to come back. And we can see the pictures here. There's a flood, there's a fire, there's a volcanic eruption, and all these things, okay, are disturbances that happen to an ecosystem. Okay, now the steps that the ecosystem takes to come back and recover, that's called ecological succession or succession. Okay, and this is the change in the structure and makeup of the living parts in an ecosystem, or just how everything comes back. That's called succession. Okay, ecological succession. Now we talked about two types. We talked about primary succession. Okay. And we talked about secondary succession. We said that primary succession is where the ecosystem or the environment is coming back from zero when there's no life. So an example here would be this volcanic eruption, right? When that volcanic eruption or when that volcano erupts, okay, all that lava is actually going to cool down eventually and is going to form a layer of volcanic rock. Well, there's going to be zero life, right? And the process of that ecosystem coming back and plants coming back and consumers coming back around that volcano where that lava rock cooled down and form a layer of volcanic rock, that's called primary succession because there's no life, okay, and there's no soil. So if there's no life, there's no soil, then that's called primary succession. The other example is here. When a fire happens, well, yes, it destroys the trees, but the soil's still there. Some of the organisms are still there, and that's called secondary succession. So again, we got primary succession, secondary succession. In a flood, well, that's secondary as well because yes, it destroys a lot of habitats, but the soil is there and a lot of vegetation is still there. Okay, so succession is the series of stages of how these ecosystems come back, and then there's two types, primary and secondary. Primary starts from zero, no soil, no life, no nothing. Secondary starts with some soil, sometimes a lot of vegetation. It's just another. Not everything is destroyed. Okay, remember that pioneer species are introduced during primary succession because those are the ones that are actually involved in bringing everything back. Okay, pioneer species could be algae, could be lichen, okay, bacteria that breaks down the dirt or the rock and eventually making it soil. Okay, now you can see a picture here of secondary succession. Okay, where we got a little bit of plants, and then eventually over the years we end up with a climax community, right? Which is just the final stage of succession. This is where the ecosystem actually reaches a stable stage of growth in the environment or from plants and animals. Okay, so this is again secondary succession is just when there is life there already, when there's soil, and it takes much less time than primary succession. Okay. So again, the difference between primary and secondary: primary has nothing, no living organisms there, no soil, no life, and it starts by pioneer species showing up, breaking down the rock, creating soil, and then eventually the ecosystem will start coming back. Secondary starts from something. There's soil, there's a little bit of vegetation like the fire or the flood, and then the ecosystem will eventually come back to the way it was and reach the climax community. Okay, all right, so that finishes up ecology succession. Make sure you review other resources, review your notes, and yeah, watch the other videos that are coming up for review.